Welcome back to SWAYAM course on design thinking and innovation. We are going to go through a case study. It's week 2. So, it's C 2.0 week 2. It's a very interesting case study. It's called a Smaran. It's a device that has been conceived for the elderly. So, it's a case study of a project of devices for the elderly. So, you need to initially comprehend being elderly, done by a batch of 3 students. Prabhat here, who is doing product design, comes from a background in electronics. Mushir, doing communication design, comes from a background of computer science. And Parul, doing product design, she comes from a background in architecture. So, initially define the problem. This was the brief given to them: design of an interactive device system for structuring, remembering and sharing for underserved communities. Okay. So, this was so again repeated: structuring of information, being able to remember this information and being able to share this information, okay, for underserved communities, means they are kind of marginalized to some extent. Okay. So, this group took elderly as the user group. Okay. The reason they took elderly was that they said they are very close to their heart and they can relate to them, and the perception was that the elderly are also deprived of new technological advances. Okay. So, that was the reason. Okay. So, first was they actually brainstormed and did simple mind maps about different situations. Okay. So, they did it on sensories and the environments typically in which the elderly make use of. The users itself connected with the elderly, that is the relationship mapping of the users. Okay. Comes to looking at things which are called as interactive systems. Okay. Also the 3 words, what does sharing mean, what does structuring mean. Okay. So, that was very, very important. They also looked at different medias. Okay. They also looked at the keyword remembering. Okay. So, this is the world of the problem. So, they made smaller mind maps to kind of figure out all these things. Okay. And they did a broader mind map with the elderly in the center, and you see the branches of media, structuring of environment, the environment itself, structuring of information, environment, sensories, interaction, what it means to remember and what it means to share. Okay. So, this forms the worldview of the elderly. So, let us focus on this group. It is elderly people in the age group of 60 plus from a middle class family. Physical functionalities may be low, but mentally active, may or may not be with their children, and they are kind of conversant with technologies. So, this was the 6 users they went and talked to, had conversations. That was the user study, and from the user study these were the inferences that they got. Okay. Very, very important to be having communication with family members. That means they are connected to their family members, whether they are staying with them or not. They would like all the time to share their experiences. Also, since many of them are retired, they are looking for ways to utilize their time effectively. They also look for common or like-minded people. They have a urge to help others. They are familiar with technologies like the TV, mobiles, etc. Okay, but computers become a little difficult Yeah, because you have to type it in, you have different ways to open the computer, you need to know a lot of things. So, they find in general computers a bit difficult to handle. So, they also looked at the user environment. Okay, so, there are some tangible things and intangible things. Okay, tangible ones are photos, books, artifacts, gifts, wristwatches, spectacles, radios, certificates, jewelry, diary, umbrella. These are all dear to the elderly. So are memories, recipes, nostalgia, wisdom, knowledge, stories, lullabies, prayers, riddles and anecdotes. That's why they get along so well with their grandchildren. Okay, so we also looked at what it means to be an elderly from our own context. Okay, so they looked at in the Indian context, they are actually looked upon for wisdom, knowledge and sharing of experiences. There is a respect that we give towards the elderly. We touch their feet, we seek their blessings. Family bonds are very strong, okay, and obligations are deeply rooted. Okay. Typically, frankness is expected from the younger generation, but it's not the other way around, you know. Yeah. And also in India, a lot of elders look forward to growing old because that's almost like the second life, you know. They look forward to life after getting retired, you know, because they have a world that they want to be active and be involved in, which is an interesting fact. Okay, so with all this, they ideated. Okay, so these were the initial concepts. So they had devices for remembering, devices for communicating with family members. You can see a lot of computers and online solutions. Okay, device for community building, how you can actually form social networks. So this is the initial concepts. They went with these concepts, you know, and they got feedback from the same users that you saw before. Okay, and based on the feedback, they said they have to integrate all the solutions together. Okay, so this was the first initial idea where they kind of combined the solutions together. So they had different kind of swatches. Okay, so they had swatches that can be placed indoors to find objects which can get misplaced. Okay. They had swatches for the outdoor use, so that you can actually have some beeping feature, because if you left one of your objects, there would be a beep and it would know that you know, you left something behind. Okay. A place to put in some information on your community board. Okay, so that information can be shared with others within the community. And also swatches, you know, where you can record as bit of information and leave it in objects where others can find this information. Okay, a very useful device. So these were the different thoughts behind trying to solve the communication needs of the elderly. Okay, for this, to explain this, they created a scenario. It's a long scenario, but it actually makes it clear how this solution becomes useful. Okay, so let's start with the scenario. So we are looking at Prabhakar. Prabhakar is sitting inside his house, okay, wondering what's playing at the Natya Mandir in the evening. Okay, so he's misplaced his glasses. He needs it to read the newspaper. Okay, so Chintu is around, his grandkid. So he realizes grandpa has misplaced the glasses again. So he says, you know, don't worry Chintu, you don't have to look for them. You know the reason? Because he's got Smaran. So what's this Smaran? Okay, so he presses a button in the Smaran, okay, and there is a beeping sound. Chintu says that now I don't have to go hunting for my misplaced glasses anymore, right. So Chintu goes and picks up the glasses and gives it to him. Now he needs to find out, you know, who can go with him for the play in the Natya Mandir. Okay. So, it is time for Chintu to go to school. So, grandpa is all usually takes walks with Chintu till the bus stop. Okay. So, yeah. So, he says that let me leave a message in the community board, okay, to find somebody to go with. So, on the way he murmurs into this one saying that he is looking for somebody to go along with him to the Natya Mandir, leaves a number and says Mr. Prabhakar, okay, and docks it onto the message board. So, transfers the message onto the message board. Okay. On the way they see an ice cream shop, and usually Chintu stops there to get an ice cream. So, I want an ice cream again. Okay. Yeah. So, they order for the ice cream, okay, and Chintu says I am not little anymore, right. Yeah. What flavor? Yeah. And as soon as Prabhakar steps out, there is a beeping sound at the counter, and he realizes that he has actually misplaced the wallet. Okay. So, Chintu is surprised. How is the wallet ringing? Is there a phone in it? Okay. No, son, the sound is coming from my wallet. Smaran level lets me forget my wallet anyway, because there is a bit of the device inside the wallet, okay, which according to the proximity can actually make a sound. So, he says that's cool grandpa, I wish I had something like that. Okay. Then he goes to the bus stop, and the bus stop comes and Chintu goes to school. Okay. And while Prabhakar is going back to his house, he says smiley on the community board, and Mrs. Pramila from the neighboring township has agreed to go with him to the play. Okay. So, he says God bless the kids from IDC who have installed this community board. It is so much easier to find friends now. Okay. Just imagine this was before the WhatsApp period. Okay. So, community board or something that could actually think of doing. Yeah, he goes back into his house now smiling, and makes an appointment with Pramila, where to meet and things like that. And then, yeah, so that is how it happens. Now, he needs to inform, because he is going to be out of the house when his son comes back, okay, and he is going to be late for dinner. So, he tries to call the son, because for some reason not able to reach him. Okay. So, he takes out Smaran and leaves a message in it saying that he is going to be late for dinner, and keeps it on the refrigerator. Okay. So, when his son Sanjay returns in the evening, he finds the Smaran docked onto to the fridge, and with a message saying he is going to be late. So, he is not worried at all. Okay. So, he is so relieved Papa has the Smaran. Okay. So, that is the simple scenario. You put a story together, weave it into a narrative to explain how Smaran works, a very simple device to explain the workings of an object through creating a storyboard and then putting characters in it, okay, weaving it through so that it makes sense that the product is actually useful to the user, and the user and his immediate family members are part of the story itself. Okay. So, after this they needed to finalize the form. Okay. So, they did a lot of sketching, and finally they came to it something like this. That is why it was called a Smaran. So, that is the final form to it. It took inspiration from the potlu, which people have. Okay. So, it has got compartments. So, they started thinking of all the devices which can actually go into these compartments. So, you had a proximity sensor. There was something to find objects within the house, for intra-family communication, and for community board. Okay. They put form into it. You can see that that is the community connector, proximity sensor, forget me not, messenger. They all made such that they are all part of the system. It has got electronics and devices, sensory devices inside to make it happen. The technology is not too much. Okay. So, when they went with these ideas to the elderly back again, okay, so this was their final solution. They went back, they said that the form, the potlu itself is too big and too difficult to carry it around, so it should be made more compact. Okay. They also said that for us personal security is a very big concern. You know, you seem to have not addressed this and missed it in your project brief itself. Okay. So, of course, the future prospects are that it can be extended for other user groups. It needs to be made more compact, can create a new community of interactions, and of course, different forms can be explored for different user groups. Okay. So, to sum it up, actually many of these devices have come into play. This was done long time back, almost around 12 years back. Okay. Since then, you know, technology has progressed and you can find instances of these devices in everyday life. That's the thank you note to people who have helped with this project, okay, and the 3 students who have completed the project. That was design thinking and innovation tools, section C2 of week 2. Thank you very much for listening. So, just to sum it up, the week 2 we did the design thinking process. We looked at what, how and who of the design thinking and innovation process and looked at the models of design thinking, followed by mind maps and affinity links, followed by finalizing the topic and doing the mind mapping, okay, and with a case study on Smaran for the elderly. Let us look at what is there in week 3. We start with secondary research, trying to gather information and how to do reference and documentation, details of it. We will also look at tools, very interesting tools of asking questions, 5 W's and 1 H, making a table out of it and using it for secondary research into your project itself and making mappings out of it. And finally, again a case study of a project.